Welcome to Frankly Speaking, episode 11. As you know, today's topic is understanding cyber insurance and some of the trends and what you can do to both use it and profit from it in some way or another, either directly or indirectly. We're going to be breaking down some of the latest trend data and look ahead how the market's shaping up, what kind of things you'll need to know about, be able to inform your customers about, et cetera, and translate that into some business. Some of the specific takeaways, right? We want to sort of understand what current data is revealing about how the insurance companies are driving the demands and what they're expecting. What we're looking at kind of the underwriting shifts and how they're influencing what you need to provide, and then ultimately kind of what are the drivers impacting premiums and how you can help your customers minimize their premiums and potentially maximize your managed services play to support those needs that they're being called out. So we'd love to, some housekeeping just quickly. We'd love to answer your questions live. There's in the application, there's the questions section. So please do enter a question there. We have some of your questions that we got during the registration as well. Those were really great questions, and we'll be weaving those in and answering them along the way. So without further ado, let's get started, and let me welcome our guests. Dara and Max, if you want to join in, we'll introduce you guys. So Darta Gibson is with Cybersecurity Readiness Advisors. Hope I didn't mess up the terminology. Okay, very good. And Max from Data Stream Insurance. So welcome to both of you guys. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, good. So Dara, maybe we start with you and just introduce yourself, to a little bit about your background, current activities, and then we'll have Max do the same.
Thank you. So I literally tripped and fell into cybersecurity almost about 10 years ago.
And you're honest. That's good. I appreciate the honesty.
I have my master's degree in education, and so somebody asked me, they're like, "Well, do you do curriculum development for, cybersecurity?" I thought to myself, well, I really don't know what cybersecurity is, but I've been writing curriculum development for 20 plus years. How hard could it be?
Yeah.
So not
Content,
only did I
delivery, that's all you need, right?
Right, exactly. And of course, as a lifelong learner, I've got this, right? So, but my 16-year-old at the time, who's much older now, he actually said, "Do you even know what you're talking about?" And I said, "You know what? I can learn. And once I learn, I can share." And throughout my time in learning and developing and launching programs, and I had this niche secret wonder service of capability of servicing the cyber insurance capacity of incident response. And so over time, I developed many programs for other corporations. And so just about a year ago, I said, you know what, I've done this for everybody else. It's time for me to do this for myself. So I became a licensed insurance broker and a cyber insurance specialist. So I melded the two together and developed Cybersecurity Readiness Advisors, which is a boutique cybersecurity firm here based in Arizona, but with the knowledge of financial risk transfer, or virtual CISO services or risk management development for organizations, which allow them to truly have that comprehensive viewpoint. And that person that speaks both insurance and cyber, and really developing the two, because a lot of brokers are really great at speaking insurance, but they may not be so great at speaking cyber. So that's where I come into play, and I sit in that realm of the risk management program.
Perfect. That makes total sense. And when we met recently, I was like, wow, that's just a great combination of value on both ends, and not creating more friction to get it done.
Right.
So appreciate that. So Max, what about you?
Yeah, I think similarly, I feel like I sort of fell into cyber as well, or it just kept chasing me. Like my background was, I was a PhD physicist and worked in defense for a while, doing some cool research in like quantum computing, machine learning, but then it eventually led to cyber projects. So joined JP Morgan later, worked on lots of fun stuff on graph theories, catching people in banks, doing text LLM, pre-LLM type stuff. And again, ended up being cyber projects, and eventually then ended up in the startup space. And lo and behold, the first project I was working on was trying to figure out how to model and predict financial risk for companies for cyber attacks. So then some of that early work then became some code, which is probably still clinking around in the parent company of DataStream, which is called Envelop Risk. They're now one of the world's biggest cyber reinsurance companies. So they kind of insure the insurers, and they're thinking about global threats and catastrophes, the cyber Pearl Harbors that we haven't seen yet, and they stabilize the whole market. DataStream, which I'm a co-founder of, it's been around for 5 years. I am one of those co-founders, has been a play in the US, in Canada. We are a digital brokerage service, essentially. We have a single platform with an online application and offer to MSPs and MSSPs the ability to basically have like a multi-tenant insurance application management system, so they can understand the cyber risk of their customers better, help them figure out and fill out all the security components of those applications, and then in minutes often get dozens of quotes, submitting to 40+ carriers in our network. So yeah, a little bit, just couldn't get away from cyber. I've learned to be, comfy and fun with it, and so that's, yeah, a little bit of a nutshell story.
Perfect. No, that's great. Okay. Well, good. So before we get underway, we just have a little tradition just of asking me asking you about your favorite Frank, right? It could be a historical figure, a fiction, family, whatever. Just let me know somebody that you come up with when you think of a Frank. Besides me, of course,
Well, I was going to say it was going to be you, Frank, but since
that's too easy. That's too easy. Come on.
I actually thought about this, and I'm going to pick my Uncle Frank. I remember as a little kid, he would give us all the ice cream, and he'd be like, "Shh, don't tell your parents," right? And so we always got to have the best ice cream, and we always knew once Uncle Frank came over, it was time for him to, share the ice cream. But he not only shared his love of ice cream, but he shared his love of Irish football. And so they recently named the soccer stadium or football stadium in his town in Ireland after him. So
wow, very
Really?
wonderful.
Well known in his little area.
All right, well, and the next call we'll do it from the stadium. We'll all go over there and be in the press box or something and do it from there.
That's
So
really
good.
cool.
Okay. So Max, what about you?
Yeah, I think last time I was on this, I gave Frank Miller, the famous comic book writer, and I guess I'll stick with the comic theme and say Frank Castle, who's known as the Punisher. I don't know if anybody's done that one yet, but I'll stick with it.
No, that's unique. You're good. All right. Well, I'll put it out to the audience as well. If you're thinking of somebody, you want to just share it with the team, with the group. Put it into the questions or the chat section of the application. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Okay, so let's get into this and talk, kind of answer some questions and just talk about addressing the real function here. So Dara, maybe from your perspective, right? What are you seeing day to day with your end user side, right, of your customers and your support people? What are their what are you seeing with them, their IT support, managed service provider maybe, and the carriers? And one direct question that came up was, help detail the relationship between MSPs and cyber liability insurance providers. So that's kind of a lot of big loaded question, but
right. So what my customers truly see on a day-to-day basis is the difficulty of understanding how to take those cyber things. Hey, we stopped 30 fish attempts today, or hey, how do we speak cyber when we're talking to our executives, or how do we have these conversations in an open manner where we're not just talking insurance that lasts 30 days before renewal, because it needs to be a continuous conversation. And so that's when we have these open conversations between me and them to say, hey, you know what, your insurer, that's the person that actually holds your financial risk. That's the one that's going to set the standards and say, hey, you need to know how to spell MFA in this conversation. You need to know what an EDR means. And of course, just like any organization, we all love our acronyms. So the insurer is going to help set those controls in place. And then the MSSP is the one that's meeting those standards. And we use the phrase MSS, double S, because that's your security provider. A lot of times an MSP, they're really great at their technology components, but maybe struggle a little bit with those security elements. And that's why we want to, again, have these additional conversations, because there's a huge difference between a service provider and a security service provider. So that's where you're really lying and having these intricate conversations.
Yeah, maybe have an example of somebody, right, that's coming to you and says, you know, I've got a renewal coming up, or you know, I know I need to add cyber insurance. What do I need to do? What's kind of the first things you either ask them about or sort of find out from them and say, okay, here's your long list.
Right.
Get ready.
For new customers, I actually always make it a point to go over the 14 insurability controls that we've developed here at Cybersecurity Readiness Advisors, looking at their privileged access management, looking at their endpoint detection and response capabilities, looking at how they're utilizing AI, and having these 14 point conversations really do a deep dive into almost like a security insurance gap analysis. And I had one customer come recently and they're like, oh, we do really well at that. We do really well at that. And then they're like, cybersecurity awareness training, we haven't even broached that conversation. So I said, you know what, let's hold off on your insurance renewal until we actually put some security awareness training into place, because your premium difference is going to be night and day, whether you have security awareness training or not. And that, therefore, they waited just a few extra days, developed this security awareness training program, implemented it across their ecosystem, and you know what? They found out that they were actually doing really well. Their team of 11 people really identified, hey, that's a ridiculous fish, or, you know, and so we also made it kind of fun in that area. We actually gave everybody Swedish red fish that identified the fish. They also gave some goldfish crackers to those that identified it. So if they were able to catch the hook, they got some fish in return. So it was a fun way to really provide that security awareness training.
Yeah. And it was likely the cost for the extra fee of the training modules was well overcome and well, you know, taken care of by the lower premium. So
absolutely.
And
I had another customer one time come in and they changed what their incident response plan looked like, and they were able to save almost $11,000 on their premium just by including that incident response tabletop exercise.
Great. Yeah, no, that's perfect. Okay, Max, any thoughts on that or any other examples you might have?
Yeah, I think, well, specifically, I guess on the last part, I think, you know, Dara and DataStream are probably very aligned in this sort of short list of controls, which are really critical for getting good quotes and making sure that you're also actually have security in place, which is why you're getting good quotes. Ultimately, insurers aren't like asking questions just to ask questions. They are trying to collect data, which does bucket the risk in a meaningful way. And so, you know, we have a similar thing at DataStream. It's essentially an automated gap analysis at the end of our application. So any applicant that is referred by an MSP or an MSSP in our system, if that client gets to the end of filling out this form, this digital form, and they're missing any of these key coverage areas, we flag that and give them a button to start a conversation via email right from there with their provider to sort those things out. Because basically what we want to avoid is someone submitting and going to market before getting their security ducks in a row, because then you're starting to get priced. You could even get denied from certain carriers, and it's kind of a pain to go back then. So our controls are a mix of what we know from talking to carriers is important, and also what we've seen from the tens of thousands of quotes we've received historically that influence pricing. So we basically build our own machine learning models in-house on the thousands of applications that have come to our system now, and the tens of thousands of quotes attached to those, and see like which features look like they are are going to influence you specifically based on the size of your firm, the industry. If you say like, no, I haven't tested backups in 10 days, or, no, I don't have MFA, or backups aren't encrypted, things like that really do, from the data, lead to higher premiums and significantly lower ones. And we've seen similar cases across, like what Dara was saying, one client, by implementing MFA and a couple other things, they were able to save a couple $1,000s on their premium. And this also translated into additional recurring revenue for the partner that got those things in place. So there's a really good alignment here, I think. Do the right thing on the security side, so you're a safer bet. This gets you cheaper insurance, and that cheaper insurance then kind of pays for the additional security, which then the MSP or MSSP gets on their books. So yeah, that's I think a strong alignment there in a short list of some critical kind of controls before going to market.
Okay. Well, maybe, and if it makes sense, you guys are up for it. As a follow-up to the attendees here, we can send out that list and kind of get them thinking, what to do, and just check that list and then come back to you for more details. So along those lines.
Before we move on though, real quick, some of our audience people may not be in cyber, right? So let's relay this back to what you and I, Max, and you and I do this every single day as we get into our car, right? We want to do the right thing. We get our oil changed, we wear our seat belts, we have our headlights on at night. These are all common things that we do every time we drive our vehicle. And that's where we want to make this an open visual for people to understand that these are common things in cyber that we're going to start doing every single day by understanding the need of, driving with our seatbelt on. I still have car insurance because A, it's a law, right? But B, I don't know what the idiot beside me or in front of me or coming at me is going to be doing. So I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing as I proceed, as I drive. So again, as I run my business, I want to make sure I do my right thing in the cyber realm.
Yeah, I think that's a discussion that a lot of the MSPs and MSSPs need to have. They're probably having it more often than they used to, but I think in some cases they're also a little bit hesitant because they don't know the insurance world per se, right? And hopefully we're helping them understand that today. But it's a conversation you might not want to bring up if you're not comfortable with it, right? Because you're afraid the questions that might get asked that you can't answer, and then you look bad. So hopefully we can help through that. Kind of along those lines, and Max, I think maybe the question for you, and both of you can respond on, but kind of what is the best process to work with an agent broker such as yourselves, or what there are very clear limitations on what they cannot offer, right? Because they're not a registered insurance broker and all that. But what's the best way to work with either one of you? Max, why don't you start?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've had this conversation a lot. Insurance is a little bit different than some of the other products that MSPs and MSSPs provide, right? Because there's a legal component to it. This is not something that you can get a portion of the revenue from unless, again, you decide to be a hero like Dara and actually get licensed as an insurance broker, which most people don't want to take the burden on, because it's a cost both in time and money and everything else. So
well, and the test is ridiculously boring. Let's be real.
Yes. So yes, basically, I think the mindset to have on insurance again is that it does two things for you. It does not provide initially money directly in your pocket from just like a cut of a commission, because again, you can only get that by being a licensed broker, but it gives you those really natural opportunities to bring up conversations with an objective third-party thing. Just like we were saying too, you want to be a responsible driver, but still get car insurance. Yes, because you have to. Insurance is the conversation to have with those customers that really steers towards the right security, but then also getting things in place that ultimately grow your business. We definitely suggest going with cyber specialists, like both of us on this call. That's kind of what we would describe ourselves as. And I think the analogy we typically use is, if I was having heart problems, I have a great general doctor that I go to for physicals and such, but I would see a cardiologist if I'm having a particular problem. And cyber insurance is a really complicated technologically dense product that, unless you're specializing in it, it's just very likely that even great brokers will be maybe not the cardiologist that you want. As great as a general practitioner, doctor you might be, you still want to go to the specialist for this type of a thing. That's kind of how we see it. So regardless of whether you use DataStream or Dara, whoever else, I would really suggest finding somebody where like that's their bread and butter. Cyber is what they do, and that's all they do.
Well, and I think that's a great response to, you know, if an MSP is bringing it up to their customer saying, hey, can we help you with your insurance? I got some people, and they would say, well, you know, I got a good broker. He covers all the rest of my stuff. He's got something he can add on to cyber. And it's like, well, he may, but more likely than not, he doesn't. And you do need, I have a couple specialists that I can go to that will, you know, blah, 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 right? You use your pitch from there. But maybe that could be some good after event follow-ups, just some wordings and some phrases to get them thinking about that.
And one tiny follow-up.
The specialist element is really, you know, again, it's just so critical.
If I were to add one more thing on there too, like just as an example too, and this is like ballparky type numbers, but like one of the things we've seen again from like, just to highlight the difference, right? We offer like free policy reviews. So if we're talking to a partner, like, hey, I have this client that has this policy. Can you guys like look at it? Like maybe like 30% of the time we go back and say, yeah, you know what? That's a pretty great policy, and we're probably not even going to be able to beat this price. Like, so some local broker, they really landed it, but like 70 or 80% of the time, it might be like, you're missing some key, like this is too low a sublimit for this type of a loss, and you're missing X, Y, and Z. And so I think again, it's even if it's just a sanity check, using one of those specialists to make sure what your customers might already have is actually a good policy is a really good idea. Because the worst thing is to have insurance and then it not even work when something happens because like it wasn't like a very good policy for your business, because that sort of like robs the credibility of what should be like a great product, right? Yeah. So
well, Max, you bring up an excellent point. Just yesterday, I had a client come to me and said, hey, can you review our policy? I said, absolutely, that's what I'm here for. And so we reviewed their policy, and it looked like they're like, you know, we have a $1 million policy because that's what the compliance box said we needed to have. And I said, okay, well, that's a great place to start. But then it occurred to me that when we reviewed their revenue and such, they're more likely going to fall into that $5 million category. And so, you know, if a significant cyber event occurred tomorrow and they had their $1 million policy, they're walking in thinking, okay, you know what hit the fan, it's the worst day of our business life, but we're good. And I said, are you? Because think about it, now you're left holding the bag of the you know what that hit the fan for $4 million. And so how many people have that much money just in their back pocket for that gap that occurs in their insurance?
Well, we've done a lot of recommendations. My colleague Matthew Koenig has done some presentations on this. So, you know, just you know, even if you don't, maybe they're not your current customer, or maybe they are, but just say, you know, I know you had a policy. Can I review it for you? Can I just look for the things that you're promising to do, but you may not realize you aren't doing, or you know, where are those gaps? And let's make sure that, you know, God forbid that they get have an incident. What would they, you know, where would they be covered or where would they not be because they didn't do what they said they were going to do?
Right.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's even before that, right, Frank? Because we talked about the MSSP really not understanding the right questions to ask. So I actually have 6 questions that I asked, and that's why I actually pulled my paper out, because I don't want to misquote myself. So as an MSSP provider or an MSP provider, you could ask your customers, which is most likely to occur? An office fire, a lawsuit, or a cyber incident? So think to yourself, which of those 3 is most likely going to occur? What then is the average cost of a cyber incident? So these are great conversation starters, right? And then without insurance, are you self-insured for over $500,000? Do you know the biggest threat to having a cyber incident? And how often do you train your employees on cyber prevention? The last one is, when was the last time you tested your cyber incident response plan or your business continuity plan? These 6 questions provide that MSSP with a simple framework to say, you know what? Now you need to go talk to Max. Now you need to go talk to Darta, because these are specialists in their field. They are the heart surgeons, and they understand where that next move needs to come into play.
Yeah, that's great. Great.
I love that. Oh, sorry, I was just gonna say one more thing. Yeah, I love that, and I think the great conversations for getting people kind of engaged. It reminds me, there's a great book called The Mom Test, where it's kind of like, it forces you to actually give like a straight answer. Like if you ask your mom, like, hey, I made a new cookbook, like she'd say like, oh, that's great, and be like, would you buy it for $30? It's like, well, that's the real question. Like, and it's kind of like these are the real questions that people need to be getting into, because that's absolutely right. Again, like I think most small businesses, when they get forced to answer the question of like, if your business goes under, what's the leading cause? And it's pretty much like, outside of just our business is broken, the business model doesn't work, it's like existential cyber threats is up there for a lot of people. So they don't. Yeah, so anyway, I love that. I think it's a great way of initiating that conversation in a way that's not manipulative. It's just trying to be honest. Like, this is really a danger out there for small companies, medium companies, everybody.
Well, and sometimes it's that insider danger. It could be as simple as, hey, I was using AI and I put that contract into AI, and wham, you released out public, private information data, personal information data, customers' data, maybe your employee records, or worse, what their financial statements are for the organization. So these are all, oops. So it wasn't malicious, but that was an insider person that just released it out into the world. And then you need to have your cyber insurance ready, because we live in a litigious society that's going to say, hey, all my stuff ended up because you put your contract into AI. Oops.
Yeah. Okay. We got a few questions come in that I think are really good. So let's from Nels, thank you for asking. So Dara, is there a specific framework you work with for baselining cyber insurance, whereas the client does not require a direct need for SOC 2, CIS, and NIST, et cetera? That's sort of the first part of the question.
So I will naturally use NIST 2.0 just because it's best practice according to they who know more than I do, right? And so they've really worked, again, I use that phrase loosely, have worked really hard to develop the NIST 2.0 characters of best practice structures. And so that's where I will have that conversation. But again, looking at the 14 insurability controls is a good baseline. And but even if you don't have to follow SOC 2 or HIPAA compliance, truly understanding what NIST is saying, hey, this is best practice. Lock your laptop, lock your doors, lock your files. It's just good practice.
Yeah, no, I agree. But then the other part of the question from Nils was, how can the savings that they get from the premiums be aligned with the controls? Is there a, at MFA, you get this reduction. If you add this, you get that. It's kind of an all or nothing. Well, maybe it's not an all or nothing. I'll let you answer that. But
well, Max, you were shaking your head yes, so I'll let you take first dibs.
Yeah, and again, I'll give kind of the nerdy technical answer to this. So, like under the hood, right? Every insurance carrier has their own pricing algorithm, more or less, which, again, they also define the questions that they're using to inform that algorithm. And often these questions are being pulled directly from the frameworks we're talking about, some of them word for word from CIS or NIST, et cetera. So insurance, in a sense, has become like, I think, a new de facto framework in a funny way. It's kind of, but anyway, so it's a complicated question because, again, every carrier is going to price the risk slightly differently, and the questions going into that are also slightly different. That's why the way we've approached is we look at all the quotes, all that data that we get compared to all the questions that have been answered that go out to a whole carrier network. So when I answer these questions, it's like, it's not deterministic, like carrier A is going to give you $500 cheaper if you have MFA installed, but it's more like what the model has learned is that across this carrier network, if you're saying, I want to I want to know the expected price for a $1 million policy for a company like this. If I turn off MFA, well, that means your price is going to go up by $500 in aggregate from what we've learned from the network. So it's a little bit more textured, but these things really do impact pricing. And again, worse sometimes, they just remove you from the table from certain carriers if you're missing certain controls.
And I will never say, spend 15 minutes with me, say 15%, just because I'm not the actuary. I'm not the physical underwriter. So I'm providing guidance, I'm providing consultation, and I'm being their advocate when I come to the table for these discussion points with the insurance companies. So I always say you get the best policy possible because we're working together to make sure that it's all in alignment.
Yeah. All right, so I think the next related question is from Jorge about, so what criteria do insurers use when selecting partners, MSP, MSSP partners for preferred or premier programs, or if they even have them? And how can a provider demonstrate they meaningfully reduce claims risk? I mean, I guess it's following the standards is reducing the risk. You can't eliminate it. So, I mean, Max,
these preferred partners and vendors, though, take time and diligence. It takes about 24 to 36 months to become a preferred vendor of an insurance company. You can become a licensed broker or that kind of thing relatively quick as long as you're doing the right thing and you're licensed. But to become a preferred vendor, larger organizations such as the Chubbs and the AIGs and the Travelers of the world take 24 to 36 months to truly vet and understand where these preferred partners are coming, the discounts that are provided, the services that are included. And if you're looking at the incident response capacity, how many incident services have they done? How many business email compromises have they done? How many ransomware activities have they done? How many business continuity plans have they written? And that's why it takes this long vetted time to truly understand where these partnerships come into play.
Good.
Yeah, I guess connected, like, you know, brokers that have more experience, more connections with larger carrier networks, they can often have a little bit more sway in trying to work with the pricing element. So again, that's the advantage of using somebody that's got a lot of experience and connections in that world. But yeah, carriers just discounting things because they believe, you know, a partner is going to be giving lower risk flow. That typically does require a longer time scale and a lot of trust, because at the end of the day, yeah, they really want to ensure that their loss ratios are acceptable. So like how much am I paying out and my operating expenses divided by how much premium is coming in. And, you know, just assuming someone's going to be a safe bet is not something most of them are willing to do. So there's been an evolution over time, and I think especially through certain cybersecurity companies themselves, there's some like innovative product design there. But yeah, like I think like many things, trust is a big part of it, and that takes time.
Yeah. All right. Well, so we'll come back to some of the live questions. I wanted to go back to some of the ones that were covered. This is kind of a general discussion, I guess, more sort of, you know, again, this is kind of helping the MSPs think and frame this to their customers, but how essential is cyber insurance for SMB, right? What percentage of those are actually where they need coverage? Is it really 100% that should have it? Is it, you know, I mean, from our perspectives of delivering services for them, of course, but, you know, what are you seeing, Darta? You might have a little bit more hands-on feel for SMBs and what they're needing.
So I actually asked this question the other day, and I said, well, you know what, to be truthful and open and transparent, I did not let my new business be public knowledge until I had my cyber insurance policy in place, because I do not have $500,000 cash just laying on my desk for when that threat actor finds me as a small business. And so I knew I had to have that financial risk transfer capability in my back pocket, because I didn't have $500,000 in my back pocket. So I launched my business once I had my insurance in hand.
Interesting. Okay. And maybe part of that is, you know, again, oh, it's another cost, I can't afford it, right? What would be the most, I almost don't want to ask this, but what would be the most basic plan that an MSP could talk to their customer about, or that you would offer as a broker?
Frank, I think most people can afford, let's just say $1,200 a year, $2,500 a year versus a $500,000 decimation of their
Absolutely, but
right?
it's, you know, I'm a small business. Nobody cares about me. What, you know, nobody's going to get me. I'm not going to get, you know, you're protecting me, Mr.
So I would say $2,500, $1,200 to $2,500 is a safe bet for that first year, you know, of a policy. But again, a lot of those larger insurance companies are creating partnerships with brokers like myself to say, hey, you know what, if we write this policy, we'll also provide managed service or incident response planning practice, those tabletop exercise, or you know what, let's give you 30 minutes of a consultation with a law firm that does cyber breach conversations, because these guys, they're dedicated attorneys based on significant cyber events. So having that 30 minutes to say, hey, I know who we're going to call when that need arises, or they're already pre-vetted with the insurance company, I know it's going to work. Again, these services are included in your insurance package. You just need to talk with your broker and say, what do I get for free? What do I get for reduced costs just because I buy my insurance policy? And a lot of them have a lot of great benefits.
Yeah. Yeah. Max, anything else?
Yeah, I mean, a couple quick ones. Yeah, the range that Dar was quoting, that's exactly what we've seen as well. For like the majority of businesses below a certain revenue line, it's very likely you can get something between $900 and like $2,500. Like there's a really big group of companies, like 80 or 90% that we see, that you could get priced in that range for $1 million of coverage, which yeah, for most businesses, they just don't have enough. If, you know, for the types of businesses that worry about a $1,200 policy, then you definitely don't have the self-insurance in that world to be worried about paying out. So, and I would also say, like, the way I see this, it's very much a macroscopic kind of evolution of the space. But if we go back 25 years, you know, we used to have like accidental incidents that could get global losses happening. Like if you remember, like the I love you viruses and things like that. Like so like there used to be a time where global things could happen. The world's gotten more secure. It's gotten more hard. So then bigger companies would get hit. They learned that they had to really up their securities. Medium companies then, so imagining again, you're a hacker. You might have been able to pull off a big escapade 20 years ago that now would be basically impossible. So what do? You go towards smaller and smaller targets, which is why that plus, unfortunately, AI at an individual level, this is probably like why you're getting spam calls every single day and why you should be worrying about people in your family not getting spammed out of money. But that's why smaller businesses should be worried more than ever too. Like hackers are smart. They target smaller companies more than they did before because they're the ones that can actually get money worth their time. And they have now all these automated solutions so that the cost of doing it at scale is brought incredibly low. So obscurity is security might have held true, again, 20 years ago for certain types of companies where it really was very low that they'd have a certain type of incident. But I would say now more than ever, because of AI and because of how low the cost is for these organizations to attack small businesses at scale, it really is like the smart move to seriously look out and actually fill out an application at some point.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So speaking of application, that was one of the preset questions was, and I know you guys have clearly done this, Max, already within DataStream, but maybe you can just sort of answer the question was, you know, do you think the commercial industry is headed towards a universal application, right? I mean, you guys are kind of doing it for cyber, but are there other applications that'll just ask 5 more questions for cyber, right?
Yeah, it's a really cool question. So right now we have, in a sense, yes, there's definitely more of, I would say, a crystallization like of the questions being asked. So like 5 years ago when COVID hit and all of a sudden there was a really big uptick in ransomware and losses were pretty high across carriers, what happens in a harder market? Well, they're answering, they want to know a lot more about your security because they're taking these losses. So they're like adding a bunch of questions to ask. And the whole just, you know, I would say in general, carriers have been through a learning process of what are the things I actually need to figure out this risk. What we've seen over the last 2 years or more is very few question updates across the carriers that are clicked into our world, which means these carriers, I think, are feeling a bit more confident about what they're asking. And we have seen, if anything, a softening market. So this is also a pretty good time to be going out there for quotes, because these carriers have been doing pretty well the last couple of years. So if anything, there might be a little bit more price competitiveness for them to drop their premiums a bit. So
well, data is value, right? They know what to look for, what are good words to put in an application or not.
yes. So you're probably, I would say, like, we're probably not at the point where you're ever going to see, because even again, for like life insurance companies, if you apply for life insurance, they're going to be different questions depending on which insurer you're going for. So I don't think they're ever going to be like identical, but I think what we are seeing is that within the carriers themselves, they are crystallizing a lot more than they used to on what they're collecting. And on top of that, I think there's going to continue to be an uptick of mapping products directly onto controls. That's the future we hope in, is, you know, we're building integrations that grab network data directly from some of the security vendors that we work with, and we map those onto these questions. And hopefully at some point, it's more like you have a list of products that we know map onto these controls. And again, that's where I could imagine getting more automated, is directly knowing product maps to these controls.
Well, that's actually a direct kind of partial answer to one of the questions that, again, Jorge brought up, is, are carriers looking to how to validate, right? Not just at the 11th month of the policy, it's time for renewal. Have you been doing these things, right? Are they checking monthly, or is there any other reporting requirements or any other proof that you're doing what you said you were doing?
Some insurance carriers are doing continuous monitoring for that exact reason.
Okay. And are they doing that directly, or that is something that does the MSP or their IT department have to provide, at the attestations that they're doing it, or what?
I know you gave us an or question, but the answer is yes. So it depends on the maturity of those insurance companies as well as the customer themselves.
Gotcha. Okay.
But Max brought up a good point. So the commonalities that they're actually creating are allowing for a soft market. And for those people that are looking to understand what a difference is between a soft market and a hard market, right now, a soft market makes it easy to acquire insurance. It makes it easy to find different insurance companies that do this. And for the first time in, I don't know, about 10 years, the NAIC, which is the National Association of Insurance Companies, or whatever the actual title is, they actually reduced premiums by 7% this year. So they're saying the premium reduction is actually 7% from year over year. So that shows that the data points are accurate. The ability to acquire new insurance companies and policies, that's becoming an easier market. So that's why it's considered what we call a soft market, to really help people become insured.
Got it. Interesting.
Yeah. One more point on that, because it's totally true. And I think, like, yeah, we're maybe it's good to demystify some of these terms in case we're just throwing around insurance speak. But just another, like, one of those big picture conception things, like, again, a weird idea, but honestly, everything does come from the top down in a sense here. Like, your company could be the exact same company with the exact same security controls, and you could get different prices in different years, and you're like, what the heck? Well, it really is because of these insurance, ultimately reinsurance companies. They're insuring the insurance companies, and everyone's adjusting rates on what's happening, like, globally. So if it's been a couple bad years of cyber, prices are going to be going up. It's going to be harder to get quotes. That market is just harder. And this is a very, relatively speaking to a couple of years ago, softer market now, because the loss ratios have been, I think, widely acceptable across most of the big ones. That's a great data point for, like, the 7% reduction. So again, the reason some of this is not necessarily it's really, like, the global state of affairs too has, like, a big influence on what this whole
thing. Well, I mean,
you
look across, the normal traditional insurance, fire insurance in California, good luck, right? Or flood insurance in Florida, or, different elements where there's just been such an overabundance of claims and issues that I mean, insurance companies just know they're going to lose money on those policies, so they're going to.
Well, and we may see the same thing next year in cyber. I mean,
Absolutely.
cyber
Yeah.
insurance claims this year have gone up 400%. So when you're looking at it that, hey, take your premium discount this year, get your policy and get in now, because it's going to look different 12 months from now, just because ransomware claims, business email compromise claims, data privacy claims, these are all growing exponentially every day. And so premiums could look a lot different this time next year than they do today.
Yeah. What about outside the U.S.? You guys are both primarily, well, Darta, you're exclusively in the U.S. At least most of your customers are. But you've had some experience in Canada, for example, or maybe elsewhere. Are you seeing any? You know, what if somebody's got cross-border customers? You know, what do you recommend, or any differences that you're seeing that Canada requires versus what a U.S. requirements
Well, the
might be?
privacy laws in Canada are totally different than the US because they actually have a national privacy law. So that's encompassing a lot of the need for having insurance. And so having those insurance carriers that do both. What's funny, Max, is I actually put this question into ChatGPT, and it actually said check with DataStream. So kudos to you. You made ChatGPT's response, right?
Because that's hilarious.
You guys have to do cross-border conversations, so.
I knew hacking all those LLMs would finally fit your company somehow, you know.
You got the history you told us about, so I'm not really worried about what I've got out there with relative to Max. So.
This is probably why I always am trying to be very complimentary to ChatGPT whenever I talk to it, because one, for the robot uprising, but maybe it'll do some free marketing for me. Yeah, on the global stuff, again, I think like a lot of security requirements are probably going to look sort of similar in different regions. Like, again, a lot of carriers are going to be looking for similar things, but yeah, you do need people that, the important part is the legality of who can even do like be a broker for you. And so we do at DataStream have some specialists we work with, so we place many Canadian policies for both SMBs as well as like MSPs and MSSPs in Canada. So that's absolutely something, if folks on this call are interested, they can always check us out and start a conversation with our brokerage team. But yeah, number one thing is, yeah, there's going to be different legal requirements like GDPR, different privacy and data regulations depending on where you are. That's going to be an influence in maybe some of what you fill out. But yeah, also making sure you actually have licensed people to sell you the policies, because it costs money and time to be licensed in different places, so not everyone is licensed everywhere.
Yeah, got it. So a couple last questions here, kind of again, sort of in this related area again. How can MSSPs collaborate with carriers to create co-branded? Is there an opportunity? Do the carriers want to provide that? Or, I've seen some companies that will, again, you're delivering these things, here's your policy, and then they can market that as a program. But anything else you've seen there, or Max, that's enabling an MSP to co-brand a little bit? Again, with the lines of
it takes that
legality
20
in there.
36 months to build that trusted relationship. One example I can think of is Chubb does really great relationships with CrowdStrike and SentinelOne. So you can actually have that as your co-branded piece, but those are larger organizations. They have trusted relationships across the ecosystem. So it takes a lot of time for those branded things, but, and here's the caveat, your broker should be able to identify those, right? They should be able to say, hey, I know this company has a relationship with this person, and building that trust over time is where you're going to create that extra bond that wants you to stay related to that insurance company.
That's good advice. Yeah, good. Okay. All right. Well, sort of as a wrap up here, we got 10 minutes on the schedule, but if we can finish early, that's great. I think this has been a wonderful conversation. We could probably keep going on for hours and hours, but one of the things that we'll do is a follow-up. We'll provide some contact information for Max and Darta, but you're welcome to provide that now as well as part of your I'll give you a 30-second warning to give a summary and your contact information. But one of the other things I'll mention, just again, the mini commercial here for my company and Nodeware and IGI Cybersecurity. A couple of the things, our product with Nodeware is vulnerability management, continuous, right, which is truly a required element. Vulnerability assessments in particular, but management's even becoming more regular, just that consistent proactive approach. One other element that we provide on the services side is penetration testing. I don't know if many of the policies are requiring pen testing yet. Probably the bigger the company, the more likely it is to be required. So if that comes up in your evaluations, please reach out to me, FRAIMONDI@IGIUS.com. Happy to discuss those services and delivery to meet your insurance needs. So,
well, and Frank, let's build on that conversation of that continuous vulnerability management. You guys have that, and I know a lot of insurance companies are already requesting that, right? So as a consumer, you can now have your MSSP partner say, hey, we partner with Frank, we know where we're working together to have this continuous monitoring and this continuous conversation. And that again can create, best policy possible when you're having this discussion with the insurance carrier.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so Dara, give us your synopsis of the last 50 minutes. What do you want to get across as your key deliverables or key offer?
Well, as my sign says above my head, I'm thankful for being here, right? Because I'm thankful to be able to share with you all what these conversations are that you can have. People can find me on my website at daragibson.com or cyberready.io. And of course, LinkedIn is always a good feature to reach out to me. I share a lot of thought leadership, and I try not to be too salesy because it's building that trusted relationship of knowledge sharing that helps.
Appreciate that. Okay, good. Max?
Yeah, really enjoyed this conversation. It's great talking with folks that, I think hopefully the vibe comes across, really care about actually servicing these partners out there and your end clients, and making sure the security aligns with the financial risk transfer ultimately, right? So for anyone interested in data stream, we would love to help you with any of your own cyber and tech E&O needs at the partner level or any of your clients with our platform. It's datastreaminsurance.com, or I guess ask about it in ChatGPT and hopefully it pops up. But it was pleasure to chat today, and also Max Henderson on LinkedIn. Look for, I guess, a guy that looks like me. So
yeah, there's probably a few Max Hendersons out there.
Ironically, actually, I should be careful about this because there's actually 2 Max Hendersons specifically in cybersecurity, and we ended up both showing up at Net Diligence once, and he stole my name tag, and I think they thought I was trying to sneak in. I'm like, no, I didn't, so yeah, small world. Yes.
If you had grabbed him, you could have gone and scanned for everything possible and put him on the junk list,
Yeah, that's true.
All right, well, again, thank you for all the attendees. We had a great show today, great attendance, and again, this will be recorded and available if you want to watch this or share this with your colleagues. So thank you for that. And if there's any other specific questions we didn't answer, I think we got most of the preset questions and the live ones, but we'll do some follow-up and continue to answer. And please reach out. We'd love to hear from you, and keep an eye out for the next Frankly Speaking episode 12. Probably mid-December. I think we're looking at the 16th or so. So thank you again. Have a great afternoon or morning or evening, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.